of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and she was looking forward to get thrown out of the history museum meetings. Good morning, Deb Peterson.
That's right.
Good morning, McGraw Millhaven.
Did you get tossed out?
I didn't exactly get tossed out. I just didn't get let in.
Oh, really?
Stopped you in your tracks, huh?
So let me get this straight. David Hunn, reporter, was kicked out of an open meeting. Mm-hmm. You were not allowed in an open meeting.
Right. And then later, after I was there for maybe 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out if that might change, David came, and he, too, was not allowed in. So we sort of sat and kind of tried to catch a few people as they would leave the meeting, and spoke to staff at the History Museum. And, I came back and wrote an editorial saying it's really not despicable or in any other way horrible for a reporter to ask a question, which was quoting John Roberts, the chairman of the board, who said, that had told David that it was disgusting that he was trying to get information. The people who opt this quasi-public-private institution, it's a very difficult, breed of animal,
right,
if you will. And people who have run private businesses don't understand that we look over their shoulders. This is the law. It is okay.
Right.
So that's one ongoing frustration, and I hope that at some point, they get they begin to understand the transparency is going to be required of them. They really start opening the doors. Now, they were interviewing candidates for a new president for the museum. Mm-hmm. Do we want to expose those candidates whose home, may be working elsewhere and they don't know they're out looking for jobs? Of course not.
Right.
But we could respect that. It's a whole different. And then John Roberts came out of the meeting that day and spoke to David and I and said, what if I just said candidate A, salary range XYZ? I said, that would be fine. We don't really need to know their names. We need to know if it is the wife of a board member, the husband of a board member. We need to know their relationship, if their experience. But we don't.
So let me get this straight, Deb Peterson. You're trying to tell me that reporters are not allowed in the history museum's open meetings, but reporters are allowed to walk the halls of Kirkwood High School.
Well, they aren't allowed into open meetings. These were meetings closed for employment discussions, which are okay under the Sunshine Law. They can close them. However, there are a lot of rules to follow on this. So, we try to go and they try to keep us out. So, yes, but that roaming the halls. So I have kids. My kids went to Kirkwood High School.
Right.
I'm very familiar with the high school.
Yes.
I'm on their mailing list. I did yesterday notify our news desk that I'd gotten an alert that they were on lockdown. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we knew about it, but I was passing the information on. I'm not really. It's a very family-oriented, generations have gone to school there. Everybody knows everybody. I'm not surprised that they don't have really rigid security measures. Is that fair to say?
Right.
It isn't. However, I think that taking an hour to lockdown when they weren't aware if there was a threat it's way too long. I mean, you either do it or you don't do it. You have these procedures. Anyway, it exposes them to the idea that they really don't have a procedure in place, or if they do, they bollocksed it terribly yesterday. So what are you going to do?
Do you think Channel 5 is wrong at all?
I question that. I think that how else are you going to test this system? I think you kind of, I think they may be, I don't know. I wouldn't have done it. It seems a little bit immature, like not a great way to handle it. I don't think sort of busting in, sort of being shady and acting weird is a. Well,
I don't know about it. I mean, he was there to, with an undercover camera, so you're not going to go in saying, "Hi, I'd like to," But I think Jessica Bach, one of your colleagues we spoke to earlier, giving us all the information, I think Channel 5 did two things that I think are a little. I defend Channel 5 a lot, and two little things. One, once Kirkwood called the news desk and was like, "Hey, we're going to lock down if you guys don't admit it was your guy." So whoever was on the other line doesn't have the power or is not an empowered employee to say, "Yes, it was our guy, stand down."
Absolutely. They needed to have a backup system in which, if something like this happened,
Right.
there was somebody there who could verify the reporter and say what was going on.
Right.
Totally agree with you.
That's one. And then two,
yes.
Jessica Bach also pointed out that in the story, the reporter, this John Kelly, went to 4 other elementary schools and 1 high school. Well, the procedures are different for elementary schools and high schools. Very few high schools are locked down. Almost all elementary schools are locked down.
Right.
So
you have a problem with that?
Well, I just think the Channel 5 story did not compare apples to apples.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
But we understand why the elementary schools would be locked down.
Sure, certainly understandable, right? But I mean, just to say the 4 of the schools we went to were all, we couldn't get in, but Kirkwood High School we just roamed the halls. Well,
so making it look worse by comparison when in fact it's a false comparison. Yes, I agree. That's totally the wrong way to handle it, and I think that the idea that when that he didn't have a cell phone, well, I guess the cell phone, when they called it, it did identify him as a reporter with, right? I think it said it was the case. But it didn't then, they couldn't leave a message. So how do they know that that isn't a disgruntled parent?
I agree. Kirkwood's got to answer why it took him an hour to lock it down if somebody.
Also his, a history of some, a horrible mass murder there.
Right. You have the shooting in City Hall. You have the one 2 weeks ago with the broken light bulb. So
yeah, there are some concerns.
Yeah.
So they really need to put a program into place. And I think if they're smart, they'll do it rapidly. And I think Ginger Casey, I believe is how her new last name is pronounced. She used to have a different last name. She's newly married. But I think she will get on this. I can't imagine that there's not going to be some concerns. And parents are right to be angry with both ends of this, I believe. I think they're kind of angry with the
I agree.
news station, but it's also they got to look at the school and give them some fault.
That's Deb Peterson, ladies and gentlemen. STO
We're done already.
That's how good you are. That's how
we didn't even get to talk about one of my favorite targets, Charlie Dooley.
You've been on for an hour and a half, and it seems like 8 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Deb Peterson. Have a good week, Deb.
Bye, McGraw.